TikTok,
We
time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. Your friendly neighborhood philosopher here, D Wood. With me now is your friendly neighborhood apostate prophet.
are we still practicing or are we live?
We're live, dude. What?
Oh,
Why do you always have to turn everything into amateur hour? I'm like, I want one show where we're completely professional, and you're like, let me screw it up the first moment I have to speak.
no, because we spent a lot of time just practicing like this before we start.
Yeah. We spend
I
hours
was
practicing. So
I'm
what?
just
What?
kidding.
Yeah, I'm like, TikTok. What's my line? Time to rock. Time to rock.
I forgot it again. Oh no!
All right, so we we are going to discuss Mohammed Hijab's challenge to debate Stephen Crowder, and we're also going to look at why someone like Mohammed Hijab might want to get an exchange going with Stephen Crowder. And right before we went live, I told you we're going to watch a few of Stephen Crowder's videos from back in the day where he's talking about Islam. And you didn't sound like you're familiar at all with these.
Well, I always thought he's a piece of work, an interesting person. So I never really found it appealing to watch Stephen Crowder. So I have no idea what he does or what he did in the past. But hey, if you say it's good, yeah.
Crowder's one of the original gangsters on YouTube. He was doing this way back in the day. Way back in the day. And way back in the day, he was doing things like making skits. He would do skits and he would do short little videos comparable to the ones that we make in terms of sort of combining information with some entertainment and so on. Eventually, he focused mainly just on, I don't know what you call it, like a podcast or live stream or whatever it is, but like these hour or 2 hour long shows and so on. Basically, over time, he went into a different direction with his channel. But some of his videos from back in the day are actually hilarious critiques of Islam. So we're going to look at a couple of those. But there is sort of an elephant in the room.
Big one. Yeah.
Elephant in the room. And this
Big
could be
elephant.
connected. This could be connected to Mohammed Hijab even contacting him in the sense that he's like, oh, all right. Now Crowder wants to be abusive towards his wife. We can show him how to really do this. Let's get him to convert, and then he won't have to deal with this anymore.
I imagine Ali Dawa and Mohammed Hijab and the other Muslim friends in a room where they operate and where they make their videos. They get the news of Stephen Crowder on his footage of him being terrible to his wife, and they think, "Hey, hold on, guys, come here, watch this. I think we have our next candidate for Islam. We got him. We have to approach this guy. We have to get him. He will be a perfect Muslim. He abuses his wife. In Islam, he can do even more with that. He will be great. He has much influence. And now, when Western people and Christian people distance themselves from him because he is abusive, we could be the ones, as always, to jump in and grab him, and he could become one of us. And this way, we can become more popular. Let's do this."
Yeah, it's like it's like they're trying to pull another Andrew Tate. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
here's a guy who has some issues, but those issues fit perfectly with Islam. So let's tell him we've got a religion for him.
Boy, do I get a religion for you.
Yeah. So Paul here says Crowder knows the Quran and the Bible. He went around Michigan to see if Muslims would make a gay cake because a Christian was being sued. I actually remember. I totally forgot about that. I would have played some of that, but. Paul here is referring to, you remember some Christian bakers were getting sued because they didn't want to make a cake for a gay wedding or something like that. And then Crowder went to, like Dearborn or something like that, but went into a bunch of Muslim bakeries asking them, pretending to be gay, saying he wanted a cake. And all of the Muslim bakeries are like, no, but it's not an issue. So he was just exposing the hypocrisy. Namely, hey, I've just proven that none of these Muslim bakeries will make a gay cake. I mean, a cake for a gay wedding.
Yeah.
And yet, no one cares even slightly. No one's surprised. So he was good at stuff like that.
Well, you have to
More,
consider it's just their culture. That's why we are in no position to judge, no matter what they do, even if it's like child marriage and wife beating and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
He just knows. He just knows who the people are, who are the people who are flipping out over a Christian baker not wanting to write a message about a gay wedding on a cake. Those are the same people who would not dare to criticize Islam if their life depended on it.
yeah.
In other words, that yeah, they got their hierarchy, and yes, we have to be concerned about the entire LGBTQ community, but there is a group that's even beyond that, and that is the Muslim community, and they under
The
no circumstances, yeah,
untouchables.
they are the absolute untouchables. So that's correct. And Crowder is a, I mean, you don't get as popular, you don't become as popular as Crowder has become without having some skills at what you do. Recently, and I don't follow this very closely, but recently he seemed to be in kind of a meltdown mode. He attacked the Daily Wire, even though they all considered each other friends, and he was recording conversations with them and then playing the conversations with them to expose them, and then telling people that's why they need to, team up with him versus the Daily Wire and so on. And so there was that. Then what else happened? Anyone remember? I remember there's like been a multiple things back to back. Then one of his
He started
co-hosts.
fighting with Candace Owens. I'm not sure if that is after the whole
That was
wife
yeah.
abuse thing.
That was during the dispute with the Daily Wire. So she went
Okay.
after him, and then she went after him again recently because he brought her up, saying that she was trying to blackmail him because she knew about his divorce that he was keeping secret. And in the clip, she doesn't say specifically, but in the clip he pointed to, it did look like she was saying, "Hey, I've got some information on you."
Oh,
So he did have a point. Um, and yeah, so there was that, and then one of his former co-hosts, who was a comedian, finally parted ways with him, and then did some shows saying basically what a jerk he is to work with. He's extremely difficult
oh
to work
yeah.
with, and pointing out that his rules, the contracts he makes are also really messed up contracts. So Crowder was complaining about the Daily Wire's proposed contract with him, and then one of his co-hosts was like, "There's all sorts of messed up stuff that he would do." So, and then that sort of brought to light um, that this guy doesn't seem to last very long with his co-host. He used to have that guy, Not Gay Jared, and stuff like this, and then that didn't end well. And so it's starting to look like, even though these guys on screen look like great friends and buddies, behind the scenes, he seems difficult to work with, which would make sense if even he can't even get along with his wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If he's had, so, and keep in mind, guys, I'm not, I will say in the clip that circulated of the way he was talking to his wife, who was like 8 months pregnant with twins, that was some extremely slimy dirtbag
Very
stuff.
nasty.
Should never be talking to your wife like that. It's horrible. With that said, lots of people pointed out, like, if you were to record everything I've ever said to my wife, you'd be able to find 2 minutes of me acting like a total dirtbag. So, but notice, I'll totally say that. I'm not going to. Oh, now I have to attack my wife because people know that I've said jerk thing. Matter of fact, I'll give you guys an example because this is actually related. When people get called out for something, they want to defend themselves and make other people look bad. Whereas me, I'm just like, of course I'm a dirtbag. But there was my wife was telling me one time, when it was mainly for the first like 2 years of our marriage. After that, we started getting better and better and better. But she pointed out that one time we were in one state. We were visiting her family, and we had two kids at this time. So like a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And she said, she annoyed me a bunch, and I just left and went to a different state. So I went, I left her and my kids in a completely different state. And not only is that messed up, I have no recollection of doing it, right? I know she's not lying. She's like, I can show you the messages I was sending you, asking you where you were and stuff. But so that's how messed up I was at certain points in my marriage. I was like, okay, she's annoying me. I'm just going to leave for another state. She can find her own way back home, and I won't even recall doing it. That's so anyway, the point is when you get exposed, it should be okay, here's 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it was, of Steven Crowder being a total jerk towards his wife, saying he doesn't love her and things like that. And it's like, just come out and say, "Oh, yeah, I was a total scumbag. It was a bad time. I was," and just totally confessed to everything. What he actually did was, when that clip was released, it sounded like he was threatening his wife, not physical harm. His response video was, "Okay, so since we're going to be releasing these things, I say we go to court. No, I've already filed a petition to the court that we release all of the information, including mental health reports." And it's clearly like, "Hey, I'm gonna show everyone your mental health history
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you've released this clip," and that's slimy stuff.
that it is indeed slimy stuff. It is indeed. There is a lot about Stephen Crowder. Here's the thing. The first time I heard Stephen Crowder speak, I thought, "Man, what a jerk! What a complete jerk! Like, I hate people like this. I would never listen to this guy." And
He
then,
talks he talks exactly like you, by the way, about
and then
Islam.
it came out. And then it came out just a few days ago that this, or was it last week? I don't know. That this whole thing happened. His whole abuse toward his wife, and some people were like, "I'm surprised," and I thought, "Why are you surprised?" I don't understand. That this is how I like saw him the whole time. To me, it's like just the way that he is, the way that he appears. He is also like that in private to his wife, which is, to be honest, surprising. I mean, you can be a jerk on the outside. You can be a jerk when you talk about political things to your political opponents, but then going home to your wife, as she is 8 months pregnant, right, and has a difficult pregnancy, and is apparently told not to administer medicine to the dogs, and he pushes her to still do that, although she's concerned. She wants to go get groceries, and he's like, he doesn't he tells her to just go get an Uber. "I don't care. I don't want to be here confined in this house." Like, it's very confusing to me. This extremely rich guy, why doesn't he have like two cars? That aside, there is a moment in the video where she says something about this abuse, and he doesn't even respond with what abuse. He knows exactly what's going on. His response to that is, "Watch it, watch it. You better watch it." And everything aside, I cannot imagine ever myself talking to my wife and saying, "Watch it." What in the world does that mean? That's, I mean, that is pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Watch it. What if not? What if she doesn't watch it?
And then we have the defenders here complaining about his wife. Wife releasing the security video is pretty slimy as well,
Not
I
at
would
all.
say.
Not at all.
I actually, I mean, I actually agree in the sense that we don't really know his side of the story with his wife. I mean, his wife. I mean, I basically have whatever it was, 2 to 3 minutes of footage to go on with respect to his wife. She could have been the meanest, craziest person in the world at other times. I don't know. What I can say is that was a pretty messed up way to be talking to his wife. With that said, there are all sorts of other things that could be going on. Um, I would not do well if I was being recorded at a bunch of times, and how I have addressed my wife at certain periods in our marriage. So I'm not gonna jump into a pylon and say, now's our time to take this guy down. My only thoughts are, okay, if you've done a bunch of screwed up stuff, great. So have I. Just fess up to it. Fess up. Man up. Don't point any fingers. In fact, I mean, even if you are convinced that this is all because of your wife and so on, just man up and
Yeah.
take all the it's over. Take all the responsibility. Okay, it's all on me, guys. Okay, I behaved horribly. Now let's move on. It's pretty
That's
pretty
the
pretty
thing.
simple.
That's the thing. I mean, you can do something horrible, and then you can own up to it. You can say, "Hey, I was a complete idiot. This happened. It's true. It's correct. I apologize," as you just summarized. And then there is the other way that he went, and just the way that he responds to these issues. Even to, there are complaints from employees many people, like saying that he's a bully at work. He does name calling. He exposes genitals often
Mhm.
without without them wanting it, and he just dismisses it, makes fun of it, jokes about it, and
Yeah, all
he
that
just
weird
handles
stuff
all
about
of this.
him liking to show his privates to people while he's joking around and stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually had a I was locked up with a dude who was like that. He wasn't like that with dudes. He didn't like showing off, but like when a female guard would walk by, he would always make sure that his like penis or something was hanging out of his clothes or something like this when a female guard was going by. He just liked showing off his genitalia to
yeah, yeah.
to the female guards. Um,
Here's the thing is, so some people say, you're judging him too harshly. We don't know what. It's just I don't give that guy the benefit of the doubt after what I've seen on footage, after the reports, which include him going inside and saying, "I will f you up," upon
yeah,
which she panics and leaves the house, and which he didn't deny, and. And the way he responds to it afterwards, and everything else that is connected to him, but just with the footage, with that footage, that is already damning enough. And the only thing that he can do is to come out and say, "I am truly sorry about this. I apologize. I'm trying to change." But no, he doesn't even acknowledge it. So I will not give him the benefit of the doubt. It's like I think he was a complete dirtbag, and I'll
yeah.
leave it at
And if all we ever had to go on was like this 2 or 3 minute clip, and I can say, okay, maybe this was like a horrible day for him and he was all messed up or something like that. But it's all of this stuff happening back to back with his co-host saying how difficult he is to work with, and then him like throwing his own friends under the bus, secretly recording them, then using that to try and bring them down and so on. It's like now it's starting to sound like a guy who's obsessed with controlling everyone around him, and someone whose ego has gotten the better of him. And by the way, just not to defend the behavior, but to point out how this behavior can increase over time, so that everyone who's watching, guys, you need to be aware of this. But you can have some people who have a more aggressive, controlling personality by nature, and then those people, that's actually a benefit if you're getting involved in certain activities. Like, if you're getting into politics or something, that sort of attitude and confidence and crush everything that gets in your way can actually help you. If you're going to be a CEO of a corporation, if you're going to be a YouTuber, I'm humiliating everyone. I'm owning everyone. I'm owning everyone. That can, you can, those kinds of characteristics, those kinds of personality traits can actually come in handy. But what can end up happening? Let's say you go in the YouTube route. The same would apply to politics or whatever. If you end up getting surrounded by a crowd of people who are always agreeing with you and praising you and telling you how awesome you are, and then you've got your wider community of fans, and everything you're saying, they're heaping praise on you. You get to the point where you think you can kind of do no wrong, and you think you're always right, because your critics, well, they're evil, horrible people, and so you don't need to listen to them. But what can happen is, if you're doing what Crowder does and you're like in this ongoing battle with everyone you're criticizing. So with him, that's, it could be LGBTQ stuff or leftist, anyone, but he's constantly fighting everyone around him. That can be difficult to turn that off, right? That can be
Mhm.
difficult. If you just spent 8 hours fighting with everybody, and then, okay, we're turning the show off. Now you go home to your wife. Well, you can be in total jerk mode, because that's also happened to me. That's also happened to me. I'm sitting there arguing with
Same,
someone
same.
online for 5 hours, and I go, my wife will actually have to occasionally say, "Hey, I know you just spent 5 hours arguing with someone. I'm not attacking you. Stop,
Yeah.
stop snapping at everything." So it's easy to understand, but yeah. So that's why for me, at the end of the day, it's okay. Once you've been called out on this, once some stuff has risen to the surface, how do you handle it? Are you still in attack everyone around me mode? Because you can see what happens is, again, those traits can serve you well for a time, but eventually people around you get fed up. People don't want to work with you. It could be family members, it could be your friends, it could be your coworkers, and you can't get along with anyone. And that should be a signal that you might need to rethink where you've gone, right? In other words,
Yeah.
if everyone who's been close to you for a long time doesn't want to be around you anymore, that might be a problem, right? They might not be the problem. You might be the problem. They may have
Yeah.
problems. They may have problems. They may amplify the problems. But if it's everyone around you who's saying this guy's got problems, that's a good time to think, hey, maybe this
Well,
guy's got problems.
I agree, and I can relate to the whole part of being constantly in fight mode online with other people, especially with what we do and what he does too, and the hate that we receive. I remember, I mean, several times. I would turn off after having hours of discussions, hours of fights, hours of handling very terrible human behavior from the people that disagree with us supposedly, and then being completely terrible once my wife tells me something, and then later going back and thinking, hey, I'm sorry, I was completely horrible. I apologize. I didn't handle this well. At some point, I even started to. I mean, we started to learn from this. So when I once I had like horrible fights with people, I would say I just need a little bit of time for myself to
Mm-hmm.
to gather myself. So that's understandable. But that's the thing. I mean, we can how you handle it afterward is a very big factor. I would I would see the problem, try to improve myself, try to change, and try to, I would apologize, own up to it, and all that. Now, Stephen Crowder deals with legal issues at the same time. He doesn't have to come out and admit fault to everything. But the alternative to that could be not talking about it. But he does the worst thing. He becomes even more dirty, even more of a jerk about this after it comes out, and that's just where I drop all the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and that's like, okay, are you capable of turning this off? Because if you're not, you're just going to melt down. You're going to be in total meltdown mode.
Yeah.
Everything that's happening, everyone, his friends at the Daily Wire and everyone he's disagreed with or betrayed or who want nothing to do with him anymore, he could fix all of that, guys. Apologies and acknowledging that you're wrong go a long way. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. And it's basically if he changes, then he can. I believe he'll be fine. And if he doesn't and just sticks to anyone who disagrees with me, I'm going to threaten them. Then I think he's going to melt
then,
down and he's going to have no one.
then he
And
can become a Muslim.
and then there are these responses I don't even understand. No, David, he was screaming at his pregnant wife. Anyone hear me deny that he was screaming at his pregnant wife? What in the world?
Yeah, yeah.
What in the world are you talking about? Anyway, so that's those are our thoughts. Those are our thoughts on Crowder. He's been in some messed up situations, done some messed up things. Who knows for how long? Because we only have a little bit of information to go on. And how many? How many times has this happened? Don't know. We know some details. I wouldn't really care. But
Yeah.
Hijab is challenging him, and now it's a question of why, and so we're going to take a look at that.
And hijab is important. Yeah, very important.
Yeah, and Hijab is carrying out his plan. That's been his plan at least for the last year and a half or so, which has been to get on people's podcasts and to make rules. Hey, you said something about Islam. That means you have to get me onto your podcast, which we're going to see the hypocrisy of that later on because they don't follow that rule. They don't, hey, anytime Ali Dawa talks about Christianity, he has to get a Christian scholar on there to respond. They don't believe any of that nonsense. They just like making
I don't understand
rules.
what
They
he's
just
even
like,
thinking.
yeah, they like to make rules that will help them control what other people are allowed to say. That's it, right?
And he makes these videos when people talk about Islam. He makes these videos where he has himself on the thumbnail and he looks angry and serious and is like, "Stay in your lane, stop talking, do this." Like, how does he think people react? Does he think people actually get intimidated by that?
Yeah.
Does he think people actually think, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, let me listen to you"? No, nobody cares. People laugh.
Yeah, and they're still the Mohammed Hijab crowd. They're still in this mode where they're looking for people who still have a bunch of fans who don't know any better, in order to use arguments that have already been completely discredited elsewhere, and then find a new audience where the arguments can still work because people don't know any better, and that's what they're doing. And so the goal is to find new audiences that are capable of being deceived And so anyway, this is interesting stuff. But all right, are you ready to actually go through a little
Oh,
stuff?
I thought we were done.
No, no. So
That's good.
I'm taking you way back, AP, before you were born.
I have been ready all along.
We're going back to 2009. Before you were born, definitely before Wyatt at House of Hikmah was born.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's only 12. So we're gonna check out. This may be the first thing I ever saw of what's his name? Stephen Crowder.
Islam, the religion of peace. Allah Akbar! No, we're not talking about those extremists. Truth is, maybe Islam's gotten a bad rep here in Western America. It's not fair to judge a religion based on the acts of a few crazy
Look how young he looks.
I know.
Kid. Looks like Wyatt.
individuals. I'm a fair guy. If we wanted to observe a proper example of Christianity, we'd look to Christ. Buddhism to Buddha, Scientology to the alien volcanic rock overlords, I think. So for Islam, it's only fair to look at Muhammad. And so I've been reading this book lately called the Quran, and it's been enlightening.
I ain't read all of it, but I reckon I understand a good deal of it. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Hey, what are you laughing at, AP? Looks like you're enjoying this horrible.
The humor is quite interesting. It's a little bit over the top, which is how I usually know him.
Yeah, this would not work very well nowadays.
Yeah.
But back in 2009, this was groundbreaking stuff. This is groundbreaking stuff that he was blasting away like this on YouTube.
The funny thing that I'm wondering, that I'm thinking in the back of my head is, this guy looks like one of those typical, the athletic kind of, I don't care about anything, I'm going to chase girls, I am popular kind of guy. He looks like that to me, especially as a younger guy. So what is his deal with going out and going after Islam? That's what I'm wondering.
know how careful we have
Oops, sorry.
to be with any actual portrayals of Muhammad, which is why I've taken great pains to avoid doing so. I am not Muhammad! See?
It was funny because he originally started with that, I am not Muhammad, but then he eventually named the character not Muhammad, right? Like his name was not Muhammad. Like women would walk up to him, listen, not Muhammad. So
That's good.
that's pretty good.
So to start, unlike Jesus, Muhammad did get married. Well, no harm, no foul. He actually really dug this one-day Maisha. And to be honest, all reports do account for her being pretty young when they got married. How old are you?
I am 6.
Wait, what?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Jackpot! Well, it was a different time in history. People married younger. I wouldn't want to take anything out of context. Besides, some people actually say she was as old as 9. Nobody will.
Yeah.
So he's a little off on, is he saying some say she was 6, some say she was 9, where it's, we know it's the 6 at marriage and the 9 at consummation and so on. I believe he gets it right in the next clip we're going to look at.
To marry an old hag, am I right?
I looked at that, yeah.
Oh, and it does say in the Hadith Muslim book 4:21-27 that he did strike her, causing her great pain. Wait, did Muhammad?
He got the reference right there. That's the translation before we started pointing that out. So that's Sahih Muslim 21:27 in the classic. That was the same. It was the same in the online version, but where it said that Muhammad struck me in my chest, which caused me pain. Aisha said that, and then until we started pointing that out, and then they changed it to he gave me a shove.
Shove. He shoved me.
Which caused me pain.
Beat his wife? Huh, well, in Surah 4:34, he actually does encourage men to beat their wives. Well, in all fairness, in the Abdullah Yusuf Ali version, he does specify to only beat them lightly. And only if they're being disobedient. Besides, sometimes you gotta smack your brood. Plus, you've gotta keep them in order, because Muhammad actually had several wives. What else? While Muhammad did have slaves, he did slaughter a few hundred Jews, and some of his last words were cursing the Jewish and Christian people. I'm still not seeing how someone could interpret this religion as violent. Listen, if every Christian acted like Christ, I sincerely think the world would be a better place. If every Muslim acted like Muhammad, according to modern law, they'd have to be jailed. Listen, I know that speaking of Muhammad in any fashion...
Hold on. This is so funny. I have heard so many people say this same phrase in different ways. You know, this same idea. If everyone was more like Jesus, the world would be better. If everyone was more like Muhammad, the world would be terrible. I've heard this. I said it before in different ways. He says it now. You probably said it before. Lots of people say the same thing, like deliver the same idea, but seemingly independently in different words. It's very interesting that people quickly go to that conclusion, which is a very simple but a very true conclusion.
Mm-hmm. So he's this is his early stage. He became he learned a little bit more as he went on, but I mean, again, this is pretty cutting edge stuff for 2009 when there was almost nothing and everyone is still a Zakir Naik fan.
Yeah.
Glowingly is often flagged as hate speech on here. And unfortunately, sometimes the people in authority acquiesce to these fearmongers, which is why I've made sure to stick to the Quran and avoid anything sacrilegious.
I am not Mohammed.
So please, Muslims out there, if I'm using the wrong book or if I've said anything untrue, please leave a comment. I want to learn. To everyone else out there, I'm issuing the Quran challenge. Tell me your impression of the Nation of Islam. Then go out, read the Quran, and tell me if or how it's changed. And to those of you wondering about personal safety issues in regards to putting out this video, I took a risk. But I'm hoping there are enough peace-loving Muslims out there who are willing to stand up and defend my right to free speech.
Yeah, good luck with that one. So yeah, we have David, you're not a Christian. Well, if Gog and Magog says it in the chat, you know it's true.
Most likely. Yeah.
So that was 2009. There was a bit odd there towards the end. He said, "So look at the Nation of Islam and tell me what you think." It's like, wait, that's a cult. So I don't know if something specific had happened with the Nation of Islam in 2009, maybe with Farrakhan or something like this, and he was responding to it.
I mean, the thing is, Muslims often refer to themselves as one nation that they are one ummah, one nation. This is something that is culturally used. Maybe he did make a reference to that, but it sounds like he's referring to the Nation of Islam.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not clear if he's talking about a Muslim nation or just like in the general terms, you know, like the Ummah, or if he's talking about the Nation of Islam, which I mean he doesn't know the difference, and so there might.
Yeah, I would say the Nation of Islam is not representative of Muslims. And Islam.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah. All right, so that was way back in the day. And then as time went on, he upped his game. Are you ready to go through the second Quran challenge?
Yes.
All right, here's the second Quran challenge.
So one of the most controversial videos that I've ever done would have to be the Quran challenge. If you click the link, you'll get to see the thousands of threats that I'd received for insinuating that the Quran wasn't inherently a peaceful book. Now, many people think it's very unfair to compare the acts of Christians to the acts of Muslims. And I still agree. Both groups often consist of hypocrites. So let's get to the root of the issue. Yes, let's look to the faith's holiest of prophets, their model citizens, if you will. Jesus versus Muhammad. Also,
yeah, so that's a good point to bring up, because you can always say, look what that Muslim did. You can always say, look what that Christian did, or look what that atheist did, or something like that. And so it is a good idea to say, all right, let's get back to the key figure of each religion and compare them.
Back to the roots.
Back to the basics, baby.
Note, even though I know that I can physically portray Jesus as much as I want without any fear of violent repercussions whatsoever.
Hey Jesus, how you doing? You want me to pour you some wine?
I am aware that in the Muslim faith, not...
Yeah, how many death threats do you think he got over there? Which is weird because this is back in the day when that was a positive. Say Christians aren't going to kill you for portraying Jesus, and that was a positive back then. Whereas now, in the era of Tate, you see the Christians are weak.
Yeah.
The Christians are weak. Muslims would never allow this, and that's why
maybe he received one death threat or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's funny he's saying he linked to his thousands of death threats he's got.
Yeah.
and free speech does not allow for the same portrayals of Muhammad, which is why in these dramatizations I've gone to great lengths to avoid doing so.
I am not Mohammed.
Okay, firstly, before we get to their actual
that's
teaching,
funny.
let's start
It
with
is
their
funny. No.
personal life.
To be clear, this dude is legitimately funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, you're gonna see.
Though Jesus was never married, Muhammad's seemingly favorite wife was Aisha, who according to was around 6. Though to be fair, he only consummated when she was 9.
See, now he's got it right.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, this is creepy.
Did they actually cast a little girl here for this?
Yeah, that's probably like someone's daughter or something like this. Someone who
Yeah.
works with him and stuff. That girl's probably grown by now. What's creepy is given recent events. I mean, this was still back in the day when people are saying no, 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 no. Islam doesn't teach that, whereas now they're all openly proclaiming that yes, this we have to marry this girl, otherwise she might, she'll be educated and
the thing is,
a problem.
I deliberately, I always wanted to, illustrate and deconceptualize the whole idea of marrying a 6-year-old and consummating with a 9-year-old, but I never wanted to post a picture of an actual girl. So it came in handy that this whole AI thing developed, and I told the AI to generate, a picture of a girl who is not a real one, who doesn't exist, in order to then at least have a little bit of a little bit safety and still give people the idea, look, this is what Muhammad's wife may have looked like. But it's always kind of icky to think of using an actual girl and casting her or showing a picture for the role.
Yeah, I would have. If someone's willing to be in a video, because we had some kids, some young guys in Islamicize Me. Those are vocab's kids and so on. So they played some characters in there, but yeah, well, I don't know, something about having a young girl. I would probably like put a wig on her, and if you did want to cast her, like put a wig on her and like disguise her somehow or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So he's got the lollipop here. Not Mohammed.
I have puppies in back.
The thing says he's actually much younger. The thing that popped up said he's actually much younger than Muhammad was when he proposed marriage. But I mean, think about this, guys. I mean, that was an actual 9-year-old. Don't forget, Muhammad actually proposed marriage when she was 6, and goes up to her and, hey, Allah gave me a dream about you, baby. So it's as creepy as that was with the lollipop. The actual story is significantly creepier.
That is. I mean, I have a son who is currently 5 years old. He turned 5.
Yeah, my son turns 5 in 3 days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking about the same ballpark with my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. This is puts it in perspective. All right, let's go.
Disclosure: Muhammad had many wives.
Not Mohammed. Who are you speaking? Shut up! You don't know the boss of me.
As a matter of fact, he had so many wives. Here's a chart. So while Jesus was actually raising young adolescent girls from the dead, it seems that Muhammad was a little more concerned with moving on. Jesus was actually pretty big on the whole treating women with respect and protecting them deal.
Hey, whoa! You're crossing some serious lines.
I think that's his wife.
You got a lot of growing up to do.
Really?
All of you.
I think that's
I'll
Crowder's
tell you that
wife
right
there.
now. But she's a floozy. Oh, like you're so perfect, Carl. I can make one phone call.
Whereas Muhammad was not only involved in the commanding of killing certain women, committed domestic violence against his wife Aisha, said that women constituted a majority of hell, but there was actually a dame who was stoned to death as per his individual orders.
Put on the. What are you laughing at?
It's so corny, but also kind of funny. You know?
Yeah, it's kind of.
Now, regardless of his servitude, Jesus never demanded anything in return from these women.
All right, come on, let me pay for it.
I got it. Go and sin no more. Whereas Muhammad had quite a few slaves and concubines.
Please, not Mohammed. Tell me how I can please you.
You can make me a sandwich. Like yesterday?
Many of these, shall we call them, female properties he'd gained in battle after having slaughtered their fathers.
Are you still here?
Which leads us to a key difference. Jesus, a servant, never fought a battle, never owned a slave, and never killed a guy. Not only did Muhammad...
It's weird, again, how times have changed, that this is, several years ago, but all the stuff that you would point out just a few years ago, guys, you see how much better Jesus was than Muhammad? Now it's all flipped in the Dawa community, and you see, this is why Christianity is weak, and because we beat our women and slaughter apostates and slaughter critics, and this shows that we're strong. So it's interesting that they are getting back. It's like for years they've been trying to show no. Muhammad was a good feminist, all this stuff, pro science and pro women, all this stuff, and they were trying to blend in, but that more recently they've gone back to the roots and we're not like that, and that makes us strong. It's just interesting.
Yeah, now they're like Christianity. They don't even kill people who say offensive stuff about Christians.
They're so weak.
Why would I become a Christian?
So weak.
Yeah.
Would do so, but he actually felt that it was his divine calling to kill non-Muslims and had murdered people who insulted him.
You're a bully. You're dead.
Which...
Just want to be clear that Muhammad did not actually have a gun, ladies and gentlemen.
That's good.
Finally brings us to the teachings of Jesus versus Muhammad. And there are too many to list here, so let's go to the tail of the tape. Jesus taught to love your enemies and teach your faith with gentleness and respect.
That's true.
Muhammad taught his followers to kill, convert, or subjugate Christians and Jews.
That's true too.
Jesus said that God will judge apostates. Muhammad instructed his followers to kill them.
That is correct. That reference in Surah 4 verse 89 is open to debate.
Yeah,
there have been Muslim commentators who have said that this refers to includes apostates, but the clear commands to kill apostates are from the Hadith, not the Quran. So
I wouldn't reference the Quran for apostasy laws.
Yeah, if I did so, it would be indirectly like the Quran orders you to obey the commands of Muhammad, and Muhammad said that. But yeah, so you notice we're fact checking, we're being fair. The stuff he said right before this was all correct. Get a better reference for apostasy.
Jesus taught mercy. The Quran teaches us punishment over compassion. But if you're noticing a disturbing trend here, congratulations, you're a logical person. But my challenge to you this time is to go beyond reading a chapter or two. Start with the verses listed in this video, but try and read the New Testament and the Quran in their entirety and compare the two for contrast. See if you can spot some differences that I've missed. If so, let me know below.
By the way, I forget what year this was, but I mean, this is even before his beard, and he looks skinny, so this I don't know when this is from. Anyway.
I think the differences are no better exemplified than Jesus' last words, having been tortured and persecuted, yet having never retaliated on the cross, asking God to forgive them for they know not what they do, versus the last words of war-waging Muhammad, having never been tortured or persecuted to the same degree, in which he said, "May Allah curse the Jews and Christians, for they built the places of worship at the graves of the prophets."
I've always thought that was ironic because, I mean, isn't Muhammad's grave like the mosque in Medina? Like the mosque
The thing is, many Salafis, traditionalists, and others have had a problem with that throughout history. And there were also like attempts to actually to change that, just like they for example they flattened the whole the gravestones in the most well-known grave in Mecca, for example, because they are against gravestones and using them to remember holy people. But yeah, Muhammad's own grave supposedly has a mosque on top of it.
Hey, check this out. Apists might as well convert to Christianity. We've talked about this like a million times. Like, if they don't know anything else to criticize, they'll just say, whatever you say you are, you're not really. You're this other thing. Ha ha.
I just want to say, okay, yes. So what?
Yes, everyone.
So what? If not, what?
Yes, everyone. AP is a secret undercover Christian. David Wood is a secret undercover atheist. Everyone is the opposite of what they say, except Muslims.
It's so dumb. Like if it eventually came out that I'm actually a secret Christian and you are actually a secret atheist, what would that change about anything that we have ever said?
Yeah, nothing to do with the arguments that we're using right now, ladies and gentlemen. So try to stay focused here.
The holiest of prophets, and you're going to make those your last words? Really?
Oh, Mohammed, please, what should I say of you? Should I say that your peace and love will transform the earth?
No, don't worry about it. Such strong hands.
Not Mohammed. What about salvation and forgiveness? How about that? Oh, anything now, Mohammed. What shall I say of you?
How do you feel about the Jews?
All right, so that was his Quran challenge too. Notice he's actually challenging people. Hey, read the entire Quran, read the entire New Testament, and compare what you see there, and compare Jesus and Muhammad in what you read.
He's basically doing what Jibril did and saying read. So yeah,
that would have been funny. I don't know how. I don't know how to read. We got to reenact some of that stuff.
We do.
All right, now, are you ready for what may be his best video about Islam? You ready for this? And
I'm
after
not sure
this,
if I'm ready, but yes, I will.
Yeah, after this, we're going to go into Mohammed Hijab's debate challenge. But we basically want to show why Mohammed Hijab would be paying attention to Steven Crowder on Islam, and the reason is he's had some brutal smackdowns of Islam over the years, and Hijab now is smelling blood in the water. Now's the time to pounce and get some popularity and so on.
Didn't Mohammed Hijab react to a recent thing between Steven Crowder and Alex Jones? Isn't that?
That's what we're watching.
Okay.
That's what we're going to watch. Yeah. We're just what led up to this for people who weren't following all of this back in the day. Crowder has had some brutal critiques of Islam, and this is probably, in my view, the best.
Hi, welcome to Jordan. I'm happy to see you here today, especially on this week, Cultural Appropriation Month, as we appreciate the wonderful culture that is the Middle East and our Muslim friends. It's always good to have friends of many different walks of life. So today we're going to be teaching you how to draw a nice picture in a landscape of Muhammad, peace be upon him, the holiest of prophets. So let's show you how to start. You got to get your paint ready.
Are you familiar with Bob Ross, AP? Because this is before your time. This is like 80s.
A little bit.
I remember as a kid flipping through the channel, and then you'd watch Bob Ross for a little while, and he'd be like, I do love to paint some happy little trees and stuff. And
I wasn't familiar with him, but my wife said you absolutely have to know this, so she turned it on one day and showed me, and I watched a few more clips, so I am a little bit familiar.
All right, so now we will say that Crowder is definitely hilarious.
For to use oils, you could use pastels. It's whatever you pick. Painting can be easy for anybody. Let's just pick a nice neutral color. And we are going to just start drawing Muhammad. Little prophet there. Well, let me grab a color. There we go. Just give him a body. A little bit of a body there. See, it doesn't have to be complex. Traditional headdress they wear in the Middle East. Let's give this...
Well, it's funny. Like, Bob Ross is actually like an awesome painter. So
yeah.
Giving it this little...
Let's give this man a beard. There we go. Nice beard for Muhammad. Protect your face in the sandstorms.
He said it protects your face in the sandstorm.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, boy.
It's important to have. And there we go. Give him some facial features. See little details. See how that fills out the picture? Now, Muhammad, though, look at him. He looks lonely. How about we give him a wife? Let's just draw him little wife. Favorite one was Aisha, little 6-year-old wife. Right there. We'll put her in the hijab, not the full burqa. You can choose your favorite color for the hijab or burqa. It can be black or slate.
He said you could pick whatever color you want for the burqa. It can be black or slate. Oh, well. Look at Aisha. Oh, boy. Oh, man. You ready?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And little 6-year-old Aisha. You know what? Let's give her a knapsack. She's about that age where she'll go to school. Aisha, Muhammad's favorite wife, was 6. 9 when he consummated. She was a good student. And a tender lover. Look at that.
He said in a tender lover.
See, look. Very quickly we have Aisha, Muhammad. What a cute couple. But he still seems a little lonely. Let's give him a few more wives. Just a few more wives. These ones don't have to be complex. Again, you can use black or gray. Let's give them the full burqa.
Black or gray.
There you go. And a couple more wives. Just a couple more wives to keep him company. 1, 2, 3. Of course he had more. You can draw as many as you want. Use the
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, boy, this is good.
you want. Muhammad liked some foliage.
He said Mohammed likes some foliage.
Yeah.
Some trees for him. I'm using a forest green. You could use a military green because he was a warlord. Killed lots of Christians and Jews. Didn't like him very much. There we go. Just some foliage, some trees. Let's give some there on the other side of Muhammad there. Let's get just a little bit of green. Oh, that's nice. See, Muhammad was really clear that you should never hurt the trees in a time of war. Was very...
See, he does. He clearly knows some stuff about Islam, right? Like Muslims will use that as a point. He said, don't destroy the trees.
I bet he actually took some of the responses that Muslims give, like one of those typical things that they bring up. He said, don't harm trees. He probably saw that and thought, oh, okay, I'm going to include that.
Yeah, whereas people don't even understand, like, the point. Trees were pretty scarce in that area. Muhammad's conquering the entire area, and he's saying, don't chop down the trees. What? Those are about to be our trees, and there's not a lot of them, dummies.
Idiots.
Yeah. You see?
Chop down the people, not the trees.
Not so much with his wives, so let's give Aisha a little bit of a black eye. I think that's her next step.
Oh, yeah, he said Muhammad loved the trees, not so much his wives. He said, let's give her a black eye.
Muhammad, of course, did strike Aisha, but only lightly, causing her great pain. Let's put black guy there. I'm using mauve. You can use violet. I just want to make sure people see the severe beating Aisha took. You know what? Let's get a crimson red in there. Give little 6-year-old Aisha, student lover, a fat lip. That's Muhammad's wife, who he beat. He's drawn right there, so you can see the left of her. And there we go, Aisha with a black eye and a fat lip. Oh, look at that picture. Out there in the desert, lonely nights. See, look what we were able to draw here. Just a couple of minutes. Painting doesn't have to be hard, especially when your inspiration is Muhammad, the holiest of prophets, who liked to beat a 6-year-old wife, didn't hurt trees, but had lots of wives, didn't like Jews. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good week, and happy painting.
All right, so
that was very good.
That's probably my favorite one. I mean, that's one of the best videos dealing with Islam ever, as far as I can tell.
It is pretty good.
Why haven't you should make? Well, you'd kind of be copying, but you actually have kind of a soothing Bob Ross style voice. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank
you.
You
sound like a psychiatrist or something.
Thank you, David. Thank you for the compliment.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I don't know. I never thought about it. I wouldn't be very good with it. I'm not very familiar with it. I would have to familiarize myself a little bit more.
Here we have some say spread corruption also applies to apostates. That is true. Some would point out that Surah 5 verse 33 also applies to apostates. But our point is that in order to know that, you have to go to the Hadith. You wouldn't conclude that just from reading the Quran.
It would be hard to go to that Quran verse and say, look, this one supports the killing of apostates. You just can't do that. You have to go to the actual source.
Yeah. With that said, there are commands that once you interpret them in light of what the Hadith say, then you definitely have to massacre apostates, and that's why people like Ali Dawa say it publicly.
Yep.
All right, now
jump them up. Yeah.
So we went through 3 Steven Crowder videos, and it's obvious that he's been on the radar of lots of Muslims for a long time. Now he's had the recent
the timing. That's just anyway. We talked about that. The timing is just
it's right after everything breaks down, and so there are a couple possibilities here. Either Hijab doesn't actually want to debate, and he just knows this is a good time to sort of pile on. He wants to join in the pile-on of Steven Crowder while everyone is piling on Steven Crowder, and he wants to jump in there too. Or, he could be thinking something creepy like you're thinking, if everyone's attacking him now and they're upset over his treatment of his wife, let's tell him he can join our religion. We'll totally support him, and he could be far more abusive towards anyone he wants, and we'll all love him for that. Just ask Andrew Tate.
Well, to be honest, I joke about that, but I would say it is probably much more likely that what you just said is probably much more likely, which is that Steven Crowder is currently, everyone is talking about Steven Crowder because of some horrible stuff. It is currently pop culture. Therefore, this is a perfect time to jump on it and to challenge him as well and get some people on our side, because that's how they operate. They are trying to be strategic. They are not very, very human in their actions with their YouTube activism. They try to milk pop culture as much as possible, and in this case, I would say it's very likely that they are doing the same thing.
Paul here has an important point. He says, Crowder will destroy Hijab. He has a lot of people working for him, so he'll have them researching every inch of the Quran. So there are a couple things here. One, if they were in some sort of just, discussion or something like that, Hijab has spent years at Speaker's Corner, and you do build up a skill set from spending years at Speaker's Corner. Crowder has been doing shows for a long time, so he also has a relevant skill set. They both have tons of people who would help them with preparation, but you have to wonder if this would actually be a good idea for Mohammed Hijab, given all the messed up stuff that Hijab has been part of in recent years. Crowder could have him on and say, okay, so, hey, I just wanted to go through this clip where you said if you just go with the Quran, you will get the indication that you can have sex with a 5-year-old. What do you mean by that? He could just go there. Hey, here's another clip of you saying that Islam allows you to have a secret second wife, and you can lie to your wives in order to please them so they don't even know about your second wife. What's up with that? Hey, look at all these. What's up with all these messages about golden showers and so on you're sending here? Hey, what are these threats you're sending out to rape and torture women? Hey, what's this here? You saying that women deep down, Western women, want to be raped by, their Muslim captors. What's up with all this stuff? You could do an entire show just asking him about all the messed up stuff he said. So I'm not sure this is actually a great idea for Hijab here.
Yeah, I guess Mohammed Hijab imagines that he would somehow get a chance to actually speak and humiliate Steven Crowder, but Steven Crowder is not the guy who would actually let that happen. I would say he's first off, we are dealing with two narcissists going against each other. Steven Crowder is a narcissist.
That makes them that actually helps them in this situation, though, right? You can have things that in certain contexts are character defects, but that actually help you in other areas.
Yeah, and I think here in this case, Steven Crowder's narcissism, together with his confidence, his show, his platform, his people, the way he handles things, I don't think Mohammed Hijab have would be very successful as a result of this. It would probably make him look bad. It would be another bad, terrible thing for the image of Islam, and people would again bash him for that, possibly. So I would say I'm not against the idea of Mohammed Hijab going and having an actual conversation with Stephen.
Stephen, if you're paying attention to this, do it. Do the research on all this messed up stuff that Hijab has said, and just have a discussion with him about it. And
somebody said, why does AP hate Stephen Crowder? What I think about Stephen Crowder aside, what I just said about him being narcissistic is not something that I'm saying because I don't like Stephen Crowder. I think it's quite obvious that he is a narcissist. And Mohammed Hijab himself admitted to me that he is narcissistic, and it's also very clear that's just an observation. I wouldn't say. I mean, that there are people that I like who I think are slightly narcissistic.
Sean here says, okay, I like Stephen Crowder again. I think that was in response to his videos, and that is how it is with lots of people. Like, people are going to be a mix, and you can say, hey, I really like what this person did over here, and I really don't like what this person did over there. And so hopefully that person can fix those messed up things and then get back to what makes him good. Dexter here says, would you give us the references Crowder used in his video? No, you can go to those videos. They're online, and he puts a lot of the references on the screen. Or you can go to answeringislam.net, and any of these topics you can find multiple articles on.
Yep.
All right, so we ready to take a look at Hijab's clip?
Oh yeah, that's worse.
Powerful.
Yeah.
So I had to cut out all the pleading for building mosques and stuff at the beginning.
Click the link.
Click the link. You'll get even more virgins in paradise if you help us build this mosque.
Oh, yeah, let's watch.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys
he's
doing?
got a
Stephen
serious
Crowder
face
is a
on.
political commentator. From what I understand, he's a high school dropout or a college dropout or something like that. Yes.
Notice he always has to start with something like that, right? Like, did you know that in kindergarten he blah 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 blah.
I know this is his thing. He immediately has to dig up something and attack the character before he even gets into it. He does this with everybody. He does this with everything. It's part of their whole game to personally attack somebody while talking about a topic, even if it's completely unrelated to the topic.
Yeah, it's it's considered a fallacy. It's called poisoning. It's called poisoning the well. It's where you at the beginning of a discussion you put out some information that casts the other person in a bad light, so that anything you say about them, people are already like on your side and already more against the other person. It's just like, hey, listen to Mohammed Hijab here, who believes that if you just go with the Quran, you can have sex with a 5-year-old. This is a guy who believes you can lie to your wives about your other wives, and you can actually go get married to another woman, and she doesn't know about your first wife, maybe, and the first wife doesn't know about the second, and you can have your I guess slave girls on the side and so on. And so anyway, take what this guy says very seriously, ladies and gentlemen.
But even in that example, like, those things are very much related to
those are relevant, right? He dropped out. He's a college or high school dropout or something like that. Like, nothing to do with the topic.
Yeah, like, imagine introducing Mohammed Hijab and saying, let's talk about Mohammed Hijab, who is a YouTuber, and as far as I understand, is a complete, I don't know, did this and this and that in his neighborhood when he was younger. Like, okay, yeah. Totally relevant, man.
And yeah, I notice. I mean, notice if we're talking about Muhammad and we were talking about Muhammad's relationship, let's say, with Aisha, and we said, okay, so Muhammad, who was completely illiterate, he married a wife. It's like,
yeah, man.
All right.
Education, and from time to time he speaks about Islam. I don't know why. I don't know what he thinks he's doing.
Hey, I don't know why. I don't know why, after all the 14 centuries of terrorist attacks and the tens of thousands of terrorist attacks and the slaughtering cartoonists and I have no idea why anyone wants to talk about this.
I don't know why anyone would talk about Islam.
It's one of life's great mysteries.
No idea.
I think he's qualified or trained to speak about these topics, and he speaks.
Now, notice
always.
What did he say that was incorrect? Like obviously just like a stupid thing that shows he's clueless. He clearly looked something, at the very least, he looked some things up in order to use them in his videos. So if those things are incorrect, call him out for those. But what in the world? I mean, he's not qualified to talk about this. He's a high school dropout or whatever. It's like,
yeah. This whole appeal to you have to have a degree in it. He doesn't apply the same standard to his friend Ali Dawa.
No, of course not.
By the way,
no.
Ali Dawa has little to no education. He admitted to me that he has never read a book, that he didn't study anything interesting. He didn't even get a non-academic traditional Islamic education on Islam. He has nothing at all.
Yeah.
But if he goes out and says you don't have an education, you don't have a degree, you are not qualified to talk about Islam. But when it comes to Ali Dawa, he's like, oh yeah, Ali Dawa is amazing.
Yeah, total hypocrisy. I mean, It comes down to, do you actually know what you're talking about? Right? You could have never spent a day in school in your entire life and just be completely self-studied, and you just read a lot, and you could know more than anyone in the world. Generally, you go in an academic route if you're going to focus on lots of learning and so on. But the idea that it's required before you are permitted to talk about something, total hypocrisy. I mean, dude, we went through Ali Dawa's complete criticism of Christianity right now on the spot. Can you recall one single correct statement he made about Christianity?
No.
I can't. That's what I mean. Everything he said was wrong. Notice guys, this is the same thing with tolerance and everything else. It's always one direction, right? It's always you be tolerant of us. We can be completely intolerant towards you. We can disrespect you, but you must respect us. You don't get to talk about Islam unless you are an authoritative person in our religion that we approve of. Whereas any idiot who knows nothing about anything we're talking about, atheism, Christianity, Hinduism, we can talk about you guys all day long. This is how things work. And it's just insane.
Correction. One thing that Ali Dawa said correctly about Christianity is Christians believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He said that. So I think that was right. Yeah.
Hey, this is interesting. Control Yourself said, Chris at Speaker's Corner recently showed that Mohammed Hijab admitting to other Muslims that there are many variations of the Quran. That's very interesting because just a few years ago, he was denying it and saying perfect preservation. Mm-hmm. Then he was saying different, it's just different dialects. That got refuted. Then you had the infamous holes in the narrative interview when, people were just absolutely shattered when they realized that scholars don't agree with them. And so, I will check out that clip.
Whenever I remember that clip, I think of Sajid Lipham saying,
"Where's the hikmah?
Uploaded it and they published it. Where is the hikmah?"
These low hikmah dawa guys don't understand what they're doing to the community. And by the way, all this stuff is why I would say, Stephen, get this guy on with you. Have a big, long 7-hour discussion. Prepare well and have a great discussion because this guy he's going to do two things. One, he's going to blurt out some really embarrassing stuff that helps everyone down the road. And two, he's going to lie. And he'll get away with a lot of the lying during the discussion, but everyone will expose it later. So, Oh, wait, what's this? The Rockness says, so Mohammed Hijab, whom I understand to be a connoisseur of golden showers, has released a new video on Christianity. That's interesting.
On Christianity?
Yay, Mohammed Hijab releasing another video on Christianity.
But hold on, what are his qualifications?
Wait a minute. Did you have William Lane Craig there with you when you were talking about Christianity? Did you have him? Ha ha! You can't. Now, by the way, notice there's a higher level of hypocrisy and inconsistency here. He's saying, unless you have a certain degree and so on, you are not qualified to speak on these various topics. You're not qualified to speak on about a religion. Think about his God and his prophet. His God and his prophet got all kinds of things factually wrong about Christianity and Judaism, right? So according to the Quran, the Trinity is made up of Allah, Jesus, and Mary, who are separate beings but work very closely together. That's the doctrine of the Trinity, according to Allah. Guess what? That's never been any doctrine of the Trinity. He has no clue what he's talking about. Or you could think about all the stories about Jesus, things that never happened, and yet they ended up in the Quran. So Allah and Muhammad could not tell the difference between a true story and a false story. But I mean, it seems like having some sort of education would fix that, but it's not. You just don't need it in Islam. Then on Judaism, the Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah. No, they don't. Show me one ever who said it. According to Allah and Muhammad, this is standard in Judaism. They call Ezra the son of God. So you have all these kinds of things, but I mean, Muhammad and Allah didn't get it right in what Christianity teach. They didn't get it right on what Judaism teach. They didn't get it right on history. They didn't get it right on science. They committed massive blunders in all of these areas. And somehow we get to the modern followers of Allah and Muhammad, and you cannot speak on this issue unless you are completely qualified. Okay, great. Then we should never listen to your God and your prophet tell us about anything because they were completely unqualified and stupid.
You know what's funny, by the way? Since we just talked about Mohammed Hijab telling people you don't have qualifications and you don't have a degree. Back in the day when he challenged me to a debate and then later backed out of the same debate that he challenged me to, he was commenting back and forth with me on Twitter, and he said something to me like, he told me, even Alex O'Connor, what's his name, Cosmic Skeptic, he is more qualified than you to debate Islam with me, because he actually took some academic classes on religion. And I was like, I did too. I did too. I actually did. So if that's your if by that standard he's qualified to debate Islam with you, then that means I also took religion courses. That means I am also qualified. And then he, of course, dropped that and switched to different things. And later on came back around and again said, "You are not qualified to debate me." So it's just, you can't trust anything that comes out of this guy's mouth.
Very strange stuff. Very strange stuff.
Very strange stuff.
Delicate doctrinal elements, theological elements to do with the religion of Islam. He mocks Muslim people. He mocks Islam itself. He's done so in the past. He's never had.
Here again, the Quran calls Jews and Christians the worst of creatures.
Yeah.
Somehow, if you criticize any one of them about anything, including terrorism, child marriage, or anything else, shame on you. He mocks them. He mocks us. Interesting.
The audacity or the courageousness to actually confront a Muslim person. Let's take a look at what he said in his most recent video and come back and respond in kind.
Islam. All right, so this is, I was going to play this clip, but Hijab plays it in his video, so didn't need to play it. And so this is Stephen Crowder with Alex Jones here. Interesting choice. Because a lot of Stephen's friends and associates from over the years are now calling him out for various things. And so goes on with Alex Jones. And this kind of looks to me like, okay, how can I get some popularity, get some momentum going again? Let me get Alex Jones on with me.
Yeah.
Based on the idea that the blessing of Abraham going down to his, oldest son, we're talking about Isaac Ishmael, was a lie. So you have to believe, and this is why you have so much radical anti-Semitism across the Muslim world. If you believe that these people who carried the books lied and subverted the text basically from Abraham onward, of course there's going to be some animosity. So it says, well, we believe in the Bible except not everything else. For example, in Islam, this was one thing we talked about recently, where they get really mad, for example, if you draw Muhammad. Now, I'm not saying you should just go out and troll and draw Muhammad, but what I am saying is, hold on, that's more offensive than a religion that says Jesus is not exactly who he claimed he was, right? Muslims believe that Jesus was a prophet, but that he didn't die, that the body was replaced. Well, that's sacrilegious to Christians. Certainly more so than drawing a cartoon.
And again, we know what Muhammad did, who was basically, I'm not attacking Muslims, but it's true.
So Stephen Crowder, who...
I only saw that clip of him saying, we know what Muhammad did. I didn't see the rest of it. I didn't see what Alex Jones actually says after that.
I forget, because I think he said something about Muslims will stand up to. I think he said something that he agrees with Muslims on. I could be wrong, but I don't remember if he said it there or somewhere else. But I think he was saying something of, but they'll stand up to, whatever, let's say LGBTQ stuff or something like that. I think he went on to something like that. So
Yeah.
But I can't remember if he said anything else. But yeah, I didn't see much beyond that clip right there. So, but notice, I'm actually going to agree a bit with Hijab here. He's going to point out that that was actually a weak point, and I agree with him. I agree that was a weak point that Stephen made there. So what Stephen said was that the reason there's such hostility from the Muslim community towards non-Muslims is that they view the people of the book as people who corrupted the scripture and distorted the religion, and therefore they're going to go on a, that encourages violence and so on. And then Hijab's going to object to that. So let's see what he says.
I don't agree.
Yeah.
I don't agree.
Hitherto shall be referred to as Stephen Cowarder, because he is a coward for not being able to respond or to face the people who he claims, or who he is trying to attack, or in this case, Muslim people. He's just speaking to Alex Jones. I didn't know that Alex Jones was an individual who was very aware of Islamic doctrines, but he's speaking to him.
Yeah, because you have to be a scholar to have any sort of discussion. Unless you're a Muslim, and then you don't have to have any expertise, and you can talk about Islam and Christianity and Hinduism and atheism all day long, and everyone should listen to everything you say.
This is so ridiculous. I mean, you can sit down and have a discussion about something that is related to the things that you usually talk about. You can have a discussion about something that just comes up in a discussion or that you are having. You can sit down together. You both know about You both know about AI. So you sit down and talk about it and make a few judgments here and there. Does this mean that you have to have a PhD in the field to talk about that? No. It's wow, man. Wild stuff.
This is very, very wild, interesting stuff. And
the thing that he does, Stephen Cowarder, I don't want to make a judgment here on that specific thing, but this is a very common narcissistic behavior, which Mohammed Hijab displays quite frequently, to give a derogatory name to every single opponent that you interact with, and to basically call them by that, and try to humiliate them, and try to be in charge of them, try to say, I make up a name for you. This is your name now. I am the master here. And Mohammed Hijab does this all the time. This is part of his power play, which he loves to do. He gives you a name. He gives me a name, Stephen Crowder, every single person that he ever interacts with and hates. Very, very funny.
Whatever works for you. All right, let's see where he goes with this.
And he's making a series of spurious claims, speculations. The first one is a very weird kind of argument in the first place, which is that Muslims believe that the previous dispensations, for us obviously they're previous dispensations for the Muslim people, which are, let's say for example, the revelations handed down to Moses, the revelations handed down to Jesus were changed, and therefore this brings about a kind of hostility that we may have for that reason to those groups. Now, this is a very strange kind of argument.
Why does he have to be so verbose and change words whenever he talks about anything? Why can't he just... we all know what he's talking about. Why can't he just simply say the point instead of changing the words and trying to make it sound more sophisticated and be so verbose? It's just so funny.
It all seems like, it seems to just be entirely, this is impressive to a certain crowd.
Yeah.
And that's all.
It's so pathetic.
Yeah, like, hey, a lot of my stupid fans are impressed if I grab a thesaurus and look up a bunch of words, and any serious person's going to laugh. Like Michaela Peterson, right? He used some word and she cracked up laughing that he was using this word and trying to impress people.
Because, of course, just like most people who adopt any kind of worldview or ideological position, there are going to be things we agree with Christianity on and with things we reject. I mean, just like you as a Christian, there's going to be some things you agree with Judaism on, and some things which you reject. There's going to be some things which you agree with Islam on, some things which you reject. I mean, the fact is, you believe that the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, is fundamentally disingenuous. I mean, so that's something you reject. And you could make the argument that therefore you become hostile because of it. And of course, your tone is hostile anyway.
Yeah, so he makes a good point. Crowder's, and it's interesting that Crowder has made all sorts of valid points, and like the one time he says something that's weak, and I don't know, he may have said other things that are incorrect or weak or something like that. We've gone through a couple clips. He seemed to be spot on for the most part. But yeah, to sort of zero in on the one where Crowder's making a pretty weak point. Again, it's Muslims think this about Jews and Christians, therefore this encourages hostility. And Hijab points out correctly, hey, if that's all you're going to say, well, great, you think Muhammad's a false prophet, so is that encouraging violence against Muslims? Is that what you're saying? So it is that the reason there's a problem is the real reason for the terrorism and the calls, I mean, the attempts to violently subjugate Christians over the centuries, the real reason for that is not, oh, we believe your book's been corrupted. It's, oh, we've been commanded to violently subjugate you. We've been commanded to subjugate the entire world. We've been commanded, fight those who do not believe in Allah. We've been told those who are with Muhammad are severe against disbelievers, merciful only among themselves. Muhammad said, I've been commanded to fight people until they say there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. Fight those of the unbelievers who are near to you and let them find in you hardness. These are the commands in both the Quran and the Hadith that lead to violence. In other words, you don't have to say, oh, the reason for killing apostates is that they have this extra belief that causes us some degree of hostility towards. No, it's Muhammad said kill apostates. That's the cause of killing apostates.
Absolutely. But here Mohammed Hijab is doing the mistake of not understanding Stephen Crowder's actual knowledge and his positions on Islam, and then attacking him over some very, very weak thing that he said. I don't know if he's aware of Stephen Crowder's previous criticism of Islam, but if he just wants
I know he's aware of some of it, because when I searched for this video, it was, I searched for Hijab responds to Stephen Crowder or challenges Stephen Crowder or something like that. Something from 5 years ago popped up where he was criticizing Stephen Crowder back then. So he's been wanting attention from Stephen Crowder for a while.
Yeah, he wants attention from a lot of people who have more subscribers than him. He also admitted before that he only challenged Tommy Robinson in the past because he has a lot of subscribers and that would bring him attention and all that. So
and by the way, that's just the new theory of dawah, that you've got these guys, they're doing massive damage to the ummah. The goal in order to help with the problem of the avalanche of apostasy is to reach so many new people that the number of people converting to Islam offsets the people who are leaving Islam. And so it's a theory. I don't know if it's an official theory in the head, but you can tell by the entire approach. Yes, we're doing all this damage, but if we can keep getting access to more and more people, then we're still doing a good job. Yeah. And it's just not working out very well. It's not working out.
If we don't take constructive steps, this is going to become an avalanche.
And notice it's a parallel issue. So you've got Crowder, and he gets called out for the way he dealt with the Daily Wire situation, the way he dealt with his wife, and the way he's dealt with some of his co-hosts and so on. And he gets called out for this stuff. And he'll acknowledge, okay, I'm not perfect. I've done some wrong things. But then he'll go into attack mode again. And notice you got the same thing for Mohammed Hijab. These guys it just becomes incredibly difficult once you've been praised as the champion of your group for a while. It becomes difficult for you to acknowledge, hey, I'm actually doing some really messed up stuff and causing a lot of problems here.
I'm not very good. Yeah.
See.
So I don't really see where this is going. Of course, we believe that the Bible has been corrupt.
Oh, really? then maybe your God and your prophet are too stupid to realize it, because your God and your prophet did nothing but affirm the inspiration, preservation, authority of the Jewish and Christian scriptures. Maybe they should have had some academic requirements to meet before saying those things that you reject and call stupid and false. Interesting.
Did you just call Allah and His messenger stupid?
He did.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah, he did. So he's saying, "Hey, ha ha! We believe the Bible's been corrupt, but your God and your prophet said they haven't, and that no one can corrupt His words." So according to him, Allah and Muhammad are stupid. Idiots. By the way, I think he's an apostate now.
Yeah.
And of course, there is evidence for that. Bruce Metzger wrote a fantastic masterpiece on this point.
Here you have it. Here you have it again. Bruce Metzger. He talks about textual variance. Yeah. Once again, I'll just repeat it. Ladies and gentlemen, tell me what you mean by corrupt, right? Because if all you mean is there's a textual variant, let's say, great, then you could say the Bible's been corrupt in that sense. But the Quran has also been corrupted in that sense. There are textual variants in the manuscripts of the Quran. And matter of fact, no one has done more to expose, and no one in the Muslim community has done more to show that there are problems for the standard Islamic narrative in recent years than Mohammed Hijab, right? I mean, Hatun showed up with like 37 different Arabic Qurans at Speaker's Corner repeatedly to get Muslims to understand, hey, there are actual differences in your manuscripts. Why? Because people like Mohammed Hijab have been lying to people for years. Yasser Qadi have been lying to them for years. And then people start finding out, well, wait a minute, if our book's been perfectly preserved, why do we have all these different Qurans? And then Hijab, in order to hopefully get some explanation, brings in Yasser Qadi, who's the guy literally wrote the book on the sciences of the Quran, to explain things. And Yasser Qadi's response is, dude, it is not wise to be talking about this right now. You should not be talking about this in front of people. We should only be talking. Yeah, we should only be talking about these matters in private. Why? Because we've been lying for years, and you're going to unravel everything that we've been lying about for years. And this is the guy who has the nerve. Oh, what, Bruce Metzger, dude. So yeah. If you want to say the Bible's been corrupt, tell me exactly what you mean. Do you mean there are textual variants? Do you mean that there were some disputes about some of the shorter books like 2nd and 3rd John when they're putting together the canon? If so, that is true. There were disputes about some of the smaller books because they hadn't gone everywhere. Not everyone received the same books when they were circulating as individual letters. So some people said, "Hey, we've never seen 3rd John. Where'd you get that from?" And we haven't seen that before. And you could say that there are a couple of instances where you have the longer ending of Mark and the and that section at the end of John chapter 7 and the beginning of John chapter 8, where you actually have a little section of verses, and those verses don't occur in certain manuscripts. So you can point out all of those things. Is that what you mean by corruption? If that's what you mean by corruption, sorry, the Quran has been corrupt by that standard too. One, you have all sorts of variants in the Qurans. You have different Qurans that are used in different parts of the world today. If you go to the Muslim sources, they talk about textual variants. There were tons of textual variants. In fact, that's the reason Uthman had to burn all the manuscripts, was because people had different versions of the Quran, and he tried to cover it all up. Unfortunately for him, they actually recorded that they were burning all these manuscripts because of all the differences. If you're going to say, there were Christians who disputed 2nd and 3rd John, great. There were Muslims who disputed Surah 1, Surah 113, and Surah 114. And it wasn't some random Muslim. It was Abdullah ibn Masud. That was the guy Muhammad said, if you want to learn the Quran from anyone, learn it from him. That guy said that Surah 1, Surah 113, and Surah 114 are not supposed to be in the Quran. Those are Muslim prayers. They're not Quranic revelation. And then you've got Ubay ibn Ka'b, another one of Muhammad's top reciters of the Quran. He had all 114 chapters that are in the Quran today and 2 additional chapters that aren't in the Quran today. He said, yes, we include the 3 prayers that Abdullah ibn Masud rejected, but there are 2 additional prayers that are supposed to be in there. And so you've got all sorts of things like this. You've got all these issues of abrogation. You've got Ubay ibn Ka'b saying that Surah 33 used to contain over 200 verses. More than 2/3 of that book are gone now. They were lost because the people who had them memorized died in battle. Notice, anything you say that you could accurately state of the Bible. If you want to say, hey, there are textual variants, okay. If that's what you mean by corruption, then the Quran is corrupt. If you want to say, hey, there were some disputes about some of these parts of the Bible, okay, there were disputes about parts of the Quran. So the Quran in that sense is corrupt. Do you believe that the Quran is corrupt? Given all this information, do you believe that the Quran is corrupt? They'll say no.
Yes, no,
perfectly preserved right down to the letter. Okay, well, you're clearly using some different standards here. And it's not the standard that I would use. Like, my view is, if me and AP start copying a book, we're going to make some mistakes. Guess what? If you have thousands of people copying the manuscript, you can spot those mistakes. You can spot when someone makes a mistake. In other words, if 1,000 of us all copy the same book, we're going to make some mistakes when we're copying, but you can spot them because you can line them. That's what textual criticism is, right? That's what textual criticism is. A textual critic says, let me line up these different manuscripts. And when there's a difference, whether it's intentional or unintentional, there's a difference, if someone copying the Gospel of John in Egypt makes a copyist mistake, or even if he deliberately changes something, that doesn't change the manuscripts in Greece. That doesn't change the manuscripts in Rome. That doesn't change the manuscripts in Israel. So once you put them all together, you can spot where something happens. That's what textual criticism is. The only difference is scholars actually do that all the time with manuscripts of the Bible. When you've got thousands of manuscripts, you can line them up and figure out if someone made a mistake at some point. In Islam, they just burn everything and say, no, there's no variance, even though there indisputably are, as they're being forced to acknowledge.
Nope, no variance.
So, everything Hijab saying, but notice it's, hey, the Bible has clearly been corrupted. Okay, using the only standards you could use to say that the Bible's been corrupted, you'd have to say the Quran has been corrupted if you're consistent, which he never has been, never will be. And then on top of that, it's the book that you're saying has been preserved, the Quran, affirms the perfect preservation of the Jewish and Christian scriptures, which you're saying have been corrupted. In which case, not only is your book corrupt, not only is the Quran corrupt, it's also wrong, according to you. Very strange stuff that this is like champion of Dawah.
Champion of the Dawah.
All right, we ready for some more Mohammed Hijab here?
The Bible.
Yeah.
Even Christian scholarship has moved almost completely in that direction. I remember reading Karl Barth, one of the great scholars of Christianity in the 20th century, who practically as a Protestant evangelical, even though he tenuously kind of aligns with that group, considers the book of the New Testament even to be corrupt. So I don't think this is...
This is the same thing that Al-Dawah brings up in his little speech, isn't it? So Al-Dawah probably just copies it from him.
Yeah, they're talking... Karl Barth had a completely different view of what inspiration means, right? There are Muslims who have completely different understandings of what it means for the Quran to be the inspired speech of Allah. There are Muslims who have a completely different view of what that means from what Mohammed Hijab has. I've done recent discussions with Khalil Andani. He has a completely different understanding of what it means, of what the Quran is. But notice, I could just say, oh, look, he's got a different view. You see, he's agreeing that there are all these problems and so on. And it's a massive instance of equivocation, right? He's taking a word like corrupt and then giving it multiple meanings. This Christian scholar would say that the Bible's been corrupt. Well, not in any sort of sense that you're using it, right? If you're saying, hey, that guy's saying they're textual variants, Muslims interpret that as corrupt, and therefore they say, this guy said the Bible's been corrupt. But okay, if that's your standard, hey, there are Christians who would say that there are textual variants. Great. There are Muslims who will acknowledge textual variants. There are Muslims who acknowledge disputes about the Quran. There are Muslims who have different view of what it means for the Quran to be inspired. There are Muslims who have different views on all these topics. Why do you not say, according to Muslims, the Quran has been corrupted? Why? Because you're a hypocrite. That's what you are. That's what this dude is. All right. Ready?
No, but yes.
A big problem. I mean, if believing that the Bible is corrupt is problematic, then within your own school, within Christianity itself, within the house of Christianity, there are people who are going to have the same kind of proclivity or inclination. So that's the
and since Muhammad's own top experts in the Quran did not agree with the Quran that you have today, then therefore your Quran is corrupt in the sense that you're using. in the sense that you're using the Quran as corrupt.
You know, there are Muslims. There have been Muslims throughout Islamic history who have argued that that while the Quran is the inspired word of Allah, the eventual way that it manifests itself into words and then is printed as a book is not directly his speech. That is only how humans interpret it and how humans produce his eternal speech. His eternal speech is distinct from what we actually have. This is not an extremely controversial view, but even that if we said, you know, there are Muslims who believe this, and there are scholars, there are Harvard scholars and others who believe this, then by his standards, that would mean these Muslims do not agree that the Quran you have right now is the direct word of God, of Allah. Therefore, you cannot claim it. Therefore, even fellow Muslims are refuting your religion and thereby, you know, debunking Islam. That's the whole same standard that he applies here.
Yeah, and I mean, you can go to, notice you can go to people like Shabir Ali, who has far better credentials than Mohammed Hijab, but Shabir agrees with us that there are legends in the Quran, that these stories that we point to as obvious, Muhammad not understanding the difference between legends and so on, legends and genuine sources. Shabir Ali acknowledges that these are legends, and he says the Quran is using these fictitious tales and so on to make points. And so notice, I can say, even Muslims agree that the Quran is filled with legends. Hijab would never say, oh, since someone has said it, therefore that's we just take that as a given. He would say, we are only going to agree with him if he produces a good argument for that. Yeah. And yet it's completely different. There's never been a concept of consistency with the Dawah guys ever. All right, here we go.
This idea that believing that the books are corrupt somehow is a dangerous belief, producing kind of hostilities for the Muslim people. The second thing,
and by the way, at the end there, he went back to something I would agree with. Like, if you're going to say that since Muslims in general believe that the Bible's been corrupted, therefore that's the cause of violence, that's a weak point. That's a weak point.
Yeah, what Mohammed Hijab should be saying here is that is wrong. That is not why we hate Christians and Jews. That is not why we are violent. We are violent and we hate them because the Quran says they are less than simple animals and we should fight them. Yeah.
Yeah. He should just be saying, that's stupid. You don't even know why. You don't even know why I want to kill you. Ha ha! You don't know why I say we can lie to our wives. You don't even know, you stupid. So get me on your show so I can explain the real reason. I can show you the real reason we want to murder you for criticizing our fake prophet.
You mentioned about, drawing Muhammad. You kind of glossed over that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You didn't make an argument there. Kind of wanted to just mention it for some reason, and then mention, you believe.
No, it was actually very.
We believe, as the Muslim people,
that it was actually very relevant to what they're talking about. They were talking about people taking offense, Muslims taking offense over things, while Christians would consider the way Muslims view Jesus as insulting, as sacrilegious, and so that was actually very much part of the point that they were making. I don't know what he's listening to.
Jesus Christ is not, as you say, who he says he was. Who he says he was according to you. Of course, we have different sources. We don't believe that the sources that you have are fully reliable. And we don't say that he says that he was God. In fact, you'll seldomly or scarcely find anything.
Hold on. Let's apply his standard here. Even scholar Bart Ehrman, who is a scholar in the field, who is a historian, says that the Quran cannot be taken as a credible source.
Wait. Hold that thought. Because if I recall correctly, he's going to mention Bart Ehrman, and so this will actually be a perfect point to point out the problem.
Oh boy!
Let's go check this out.
Except for the Gospel of John and the writers of the Gospel of John, especially the Synoptic Bible or the Synoptic New Testament.
It's called the Synoptic Gospels, not the Synoptic New Testament. Or Synoptic Bible. What is this guy?
The Synoptic Bible.
See, he's not qualified. You're not qualified. You're talking about this, Mohammed Hijab. Why are you talking? Any scholar, any first-year student would know that that's the Synoptic Gospels and not the Synoptic Bible. Not making any sense.
Even the Synoptic Bible.
Humiliated. All right, let's see what he said.
you will not find this emphasized at all, the divinity of Jesus Christ. As Christians, Bart Ehrman even says that John, the Gospel of John, has a quote-unquote high Christology. And of course, that's something which...
So Bart Ehrman says that the Gospel of John has a high Christology.
Okay, so he takes Bart Ehrman here as an authoritative figure in order to make a judgment, and says even Bart Ehrman, says this. Okay, well, let's apply the same standard. Even Bart Ehrman, who is a scholar, a historian in the field, said, and I would know this. It's right there on video. I would know this because I asked Bart Ehrman, and he directly answered it to me. He said that the Quran cannot be taken as a credible source on about Jesus. That the most credible sources about Jesus would be the oldest Christian texts which we have, which we can still trace back, which are still in existence. Those are the most credible. The Quran, definitely not. So even Bart Ehrman says that the Quran cannot be relied upon. Therefore, I mean, what are you even talking about, Mohammed Hijab? Same standard, man.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. Look what Bart Ehrman says. Okay, Bart Ehrman says Jesus was definitely crucified. What do you think about that? Bart Ehrman's wrong. You can't listen to Bart Ehrman. It's like, what? And by the way, AP, doesn't Bart Ehrman say that Jesus is divine in some sense in all the Gospels?
Yes, he said all the Gospel authors agree that Jesus is in some sense divine.
Yeah, and so let's see where Hijab is going here. But notice this stupidity. We don't fully trust those sources that our God and our prophet said are the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of God. That's why you can ignore those sources and go to the Quran from centuries later, where our guy, even according to Muslim scholars, couldn't tell the difference between legends and fables and actual historical information, even according to people like Shabir Ali. Huh?
Is once again understood in the scholarly world of Christianity. What I'm saying here is Jesus Christ saying that he's God himself doesn't appear to be really in the Bible in very clear terms. Him saying that I am God of worship, it doesn't clear to be in...
he's going back to the Zakir. He's going back to the Zakir Naik. Where did Jesus say I'm God, worship me in those words?
Hold on. Isn't that from the... Am I getting this wrong? Isn't that from the interview from the discussion between Mohammed Hijab and Bart Ehrman, where Bart Ehrman says that all the gospel authors agree that Jesus is in some sense divine, that he's in some sense... I thought that is directly from the interview that Mohammed Hijab conducted with Bart Ehrman. So Bart Ehrman said that to him directly, I think.
I don't recall actually watching that. But Bart, I brought it up because Bart Ehrman says it in his book on how Jesus became God or something like that. He's saying all the Gospels portray. Matter of fact, I think his position was, "Hey, I used to think that only the Gospel of John portrayed Jesus as divine. Now I think that all the Gospels are portraying Jesus as divine in some sense."
Yeah, I have to check on that, but I'm pretty sure that it was in that interview with him where Bart Ehrman actually said that directly to his face. He said that that this is what all the gospel authors think, and that's what you think when you look at the gospel. And here he is talking about authority, even mentioning Bart Ehrman, and then completely making it look like, no, Jesus never said such a thing.
And as far as the hypocrisy goes, again, Kalo here points out, where does Jesus say he had a virgin birth?
Yeah.
Notice where does Jesus say I'm the virgin born son of Mary? Where does he say that? You can't believe it. Ha ha. Interesting.
Bible. And if you are going to say the Gospel of John has some of those references, well, the Gospel of John is a very late reference itself. So the idea that he said that...
Yes, the Gospel of John. It's 1st century, extremely late. That's why you have to go to the 7th century and believe the Quran. That's not late at all.
Himself is not something we even grant you, frankly. But according to us, he didn't say that. And yes, it is sacrilegious for us to believe that Jesus wasn't God. But it's also sacrilegious for you to believe that he is God. And so the same exact argument applies both ways, if you think about it. In fact, there's a verse in the Quran. I'm going to...
He's really stretching out into 9 minutes one valid point, namely Crowder's point about, oh, Muslims disagree with some things, therefore that's what leads to the violence. That's but let me put it this way. That's only a good point when you combine it with the fact that the Quran says if someone is, disagreeing with you or whatever, then get violent with them. So it has to be combined. But he's just making one 9-minute video saying that this is a weak point. True. We already agreed with you, Hijab. Crowder made a weak point. Now address all of the very valid, relevant points he made.
Yeah, I want to give a speech that I prepared addressing Stephen Crowder. Stephen Crowder said something that doesn't make sense. Stephen Crowder said something that is not very, very good, that I don't agree with, and that doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't make sense. Yes. And this is all I have for today. Yes.
Yes, but he has millions of subscribers, so you have to let me on your show.
The verses. And then I'm going to translate them for you. So verse in the Quran that says the following.
If he starts reciting.
Oh my goodness. وقالوا اتخذ الرحمن ولدا لقد جئتم شيئا إدا تكاد السماوات يتفطرن منه وتنشق الأرض وتخر الجبال هدا أن دعوا للرحمن ولدا وما ينبغي للرحمن أن يتخذ ولدا.
I am going to convert right
this
now.
Is so he
sounds so cool.
He really seems to be one of these guys who thinks that they're like magical powers to the Quran, and not that we're all just sitting here going, "Will you please hurry up and get through this idiotic nonsense?"
Shut up. He tried to enchant Jordan Peterson through that. Tried to recite the Quran and thought he will be amazed by this, and he will, as a result of this, convert to Islam. Alhamdulillah. So for some reason it didn't work, and they don't know why.
Isn't that weird? Yeah, it's supposed to have magical powers. It reminds me of Nacho Libre. Eagle eggs has magical powers. It's like these Quran verses have magical powers.
They ascribed.
Hold on, David. So think about Armin right now. In some sense, Jesus is God. Okay, so it was actually from the interview between Mohammed Hijab and Bart Ehrman. There he clearly says to him, Jesus did think that he was the Son of God. And I think that all of the gospel authors think that Jesus was God in some sense. That's what he says. Mm-hmm. And here's Mohammed Hijab referencing Bart Ehrman and then completely contradicting him with his own pathetic views. So
shocker.
Wow.
Shocker.
Allah has taken a son. They have come with some preposterous thing that the heavens and the earth will be split asunder. As a result of this, وَتَخِرُّ and destroyed would be the mountains. Destroyed would be the mountains.
Destroyed. The mountains would be destroyed because they said Allah has a son. The universe will split apart. Really? This sounds like a guy with some serious... This guy sounds like a guy... I'm not talking about Hijab here. I'm talking about Muhammad. Muhammad sounds like a guy with some serious daddy issues. The ironic part is, if you look at his psychological background, where his father dies before he's born, then he's given to a family of Bedouins. They eventually send him back because they think he's demon possessed. Then he's sent to his mother. His mother dies. Then he's sent to his grandfather. His grandfather dies. Muhammad loses every single close relationship he has with a father figure or mother figure, every single one by the time he's 8 years old. We know the psychological impact that tends to have on kids. Yeah. And it's exactly what we find in the Quran verse that Hijab mentions here, which the passage is, the universe will fall apart because they say Allah has a son. And he also says that no one approaches Allah as anything except a slave. The greatest relationship you can have with Allah is a slave to master relationship.
Hello, Master Allah.
Yeah. Mountains. Because of such a word. And دعوا للرحمن ولدا, that they ascribe to Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, a son.
Shame on him.
That everything in the heavens and the earth comes to Allah as a slave. This is in the Quran. So it's the ultimate sacrilege to say.
But now this is relevant. So Hijab saying, if you're going to say, oh, we regard you as sacrilegious, you regard us, and that therefore that's violence. He's saying, no, this doesn't entail violence, because that would mean everyone's going to be violent, because everyone views something that someone else is saying as sacrilegious. All that is true. That has nothing to do with the deeper point that Islam says fight over all this stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's the biggest sacrilegious. Yeah, that's what he just said.
Yeah, so this is relevant, actually. So once you combine Crowder's point with the basic fact that Islam does say fight over this and other people don't believe you fight over it, point stands.
Jesus is God or the Son of God.
I could just cut him saying Jesus is God and then use it like you use.
Yeah. He just became a Christian. Wow.
Hey, why'd you start getting quiet all of a sudden?
He just became a Christian. Wow. Hello.
Did you turn your mic down?
I didn't do anything.
Oh, okay, we're good then. All right, we're almost done here. Let's see what we got.
But of course, despite that or notwithstanding that fact, Muslim people are tolerant of Christians. We don't force upon them. Islam upon them. As in the Quran it says, La ikraha fi din, there is no compulsion in religion.
Oh my goodness.
He
just quoted the no compulsion in religion.
The point is, your arguments really don't hold any weight. I hereby challenge you to a debate.
What is happening here?
Yeah, what is that? I mean, Hijab knows what that verse means. I mean, well, you don't really, because you get a bunch of different commentaries. No classical Muslim commentator thinks it means what a modern Muslim says it means. And matter of fact, given what he just said, this is my goodness, look what he just did here, right? This is a form of deception. He's well aware of this, and he's mastered these arts of deception, where you do find Muslim commentaries that say, once a Christian or a Jew has agreed to pay the jizya, that's what no compulsion in religion means. You don't force them if they've agreed to pay the jizya. There have been commentators who say that. There have been all kinds of commentators who say all kinds of things. What the commentators never say is what modern Muslims say this means. It means, we're fine with all religions and so on. So notice in Hijab's mind, as far as how this deception works, he says, no compulsion in religion. That's why we wouldn't oppress Christians and force them to believe and so on. Knowing that when he says no compulsion in religion, the people who are watching are going to interpret that as, yes, Islam doesn't oppress people and so on. When in his, if someone were to call him on it, say, hey, you're being deceptive there, knowing how people are interpreting that, he could defend it and say, oh no, there are commentators who said that if a Christian is paying the jizya, then you don't force him to convert to Islam. But what's that saying? That yes, you've been fought and violently subjugated. I don't consider that being on very good terms with you. And notice why were the Christians violently subjugated? Well, Surah 9, verse 29, fight those who do not believe. The next verse gives the explanation. It's because Christians say Jesus is the Son of God. That's the justification for fighting us. So all this stuff is connected. And for him to act like it's not, and Islam just preaches, no compulsion in religion, massively deceptive.
And or a discussion or an education session. I actually don't know what to call it, because frankly, you're not worthy of a debate.
You're not worthy.
I'm saying that with the greatest of respect.
The greatest of respect. I said you're not worthy.
Frankly, you're disrespectful. Shut up, man. But you're not worthy of a debate. But if you want to be educated on the topic of Islam, which you've been speaking on for many years,
I'm your teacher, boy.
I can teach you the basics.
I'll teach you.
I will do this as a community service for your community and mine. If you're gallant enough and brave enough, accept the challenge. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Translation.
So disgusting, man.
Translation. You have millions of followers still, and I would like to have access to them so I can lie like I just did in this video. That's what he's saying.
You have millions of followers, and I would like to educate you, because you're obviously not worth a debate, and you are disrespectful. And if you accept it, I will come on your channel, and I will obviously like to educate you.
Yeah, and notice the
shut up, man.
The insane level of hypocrisy. You've said something about Islam, and therefore you have to have a Muslim on to discuss this because you talked about it. Meanwhile, these guys talk about Christianity all the time, talk about all kinds of things all the time. Never crosses their mind, hey, when Ali Dawa says something completely false and idiotic, we need a Christian scholar there or something like that, or a Christian evangelist, something like that, to come on with him. Never crosses their mind. So as always, we can be as inaccurate as we like with everything that we're talking about, but you cannot talk about our religion unless you have someone on there that has our stamp of approval. And what you find is that what's actually going on here is Hijab, yet again, as he always does, is just looking for ways to control what people say about his religion.
Yeah,
he's looking,
that's actually a miracle.
Yeah. What's a miracle?
I don't know, like anything. This is a miracle. Yeah. This is not hypocrisy; it's a miracle.
Yeah, it's a miracle that he can have these like completely double standards and be fine with it. So yes, that is the goal. Notice, I mean, when Hijab was going after people's wives, that was an attempt to control what people say. When he was talking about the golden showers and so on, that was an attempt to control what we say. It was, hey, I'm gonna shower you with these insults anytime you're talking about Muhammad, to try and condition you to not talk about Muhammad anymore. And then this entire video with Steven Crowder is, you can only talk about Islam if you meet all these qualifications, and if you have this education, and if you have a Muslim with you. And it's like, you don't really believe in any of that. You don't really believe that those are requirements for talking about any topic. You're just saying it in an attempt to silence a critic of Islam and to use him to have access to his following, which will impress your followers.
Yeah.
This is bad. This is pathetic, man.
All
right. Well, that's really all I wanted to cover. So we went through some Steven Crowder clips. We can understand why someone like Mohammed Hijab would want access to Crowder's followers. Any final thoughts, AP, on all of this?
I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by what I have heard today, except I actually found some stuff from Steven Crowder funny. But what came from Mohammed Hijab is, of course, the usual deceptive trickery, the mischievous, let us make ourselves look amazing and strong and humiliate Steven Crowder, since he's currently talked about, and this is a perfect opportunity. I mean, that's the usual stuff, and I hope it actually happens. I hope Mohammed Hijab actually talks to Steven Crowder, because I think it would be fun to watch, and I think it would be just another case where Mohammed Hijab does something really, really stupid, and people like Sajid Liphem then come out and say, "This is a public service announcement, and I don't know what these people are doing. Where is the hikmah?" And I just want to see that. I just want to wait for that Sajid Liphem video in which he berates his fellow Muslims for being complete idiots. And yeah, what else is there to say?
And it would be another situation of Mohammed Hijab, as you pointed out, doing something massively embarrassing, but his followers cheering him on no matter what he does, and him thinking that he made an important difference for Islam, when everyone else would be watching this going, "Oh my goodness, what is this? What is this giant mess?" All right, well,
where is the hikmah?
So we just wanted to bring everyone up to date on the fact that Mohammed Hijab is challenging Steven Crowder, and what the actual reasons are, and the significant problems and hypocrisy that are laced throughout Hijab's entire video. So when you guys see Hijab's fans pestering Steven Crowder about this, go ahead and share a link to this live stream, and that way everyone will be a little bit better informed on who they're dealing with if they're not familiar with Hijab.
Yeah. Obviously, they're not qualified, but we will do public service and educate you, just like Mohammed Hijab does. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that brings everyone up to date on the state of Dawah.
Yes.
Dawah,
absolutely.
In absolute desperation mode to do something about the avalanche of apostasy, and in the mind, it's if I could just get on Steven Crowder's podcast, I will save Islam. Good luck with that, Mohammed Hijab, and good luck with all you dais out there trying to do something about this avalanche of apostasy. May I offer a piece of friendly advice here? The best thing you could do to deal with the avalanche of apostasy, one, stop lying. Stop lying. Stop heaping insults and abuse on people. Stop defending things like child marriage and lying to your wives and so on. And be much better people than you're currently being. That would, it's not going to stop the avalanche of apostasy because the cat's kind of out of the bag. But if you stop annoying and ticking everyone else off, you will stop generating the hostility that makes people look into your lies and then expose your lies. So
I want to say, Mohammed Hijab, your child is going to become an apostate.
Your child is going to become an apostate. Help me. That's the song. Help me, help me. Okay. Guys, if you don't know where that's coming from, that's Mohammed Hijab screaming at Muslims. Your child's going to become an apostate, and you're arguing about all this stuff. You got to wait for Mohammed Hijab. They're writing Muhammad on their penises. All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've been brought up to date on the current state of Dawah.
Make sure to like this video, declare jihad, hit the like button, share this video with everybody so they can watch it. Yeah.
And until next time, any final thought, AP?
Stay away from Mohammed Hijab. Stay away from...
Unless you're Steven Crowder, then bring him on.
Yeah, stay away from... Yeah. If you're Steven Crowder, don't listen to me. Otherwise, stay away from Islam. Yeah.
Catch y'all later.